the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, where no rain has fallen for decades. Here, amidst endless sand and salt flats, in February 2024, a discovery shocked the world. A U.S. reconnaissance satellite was conducting a routine survey of the Chile-Bolivia border when its AI algorithm detected an anomaly. 3 days earlier, a severe sandstorm had swept the area, revealing a metallic object buried under meters of sand. Photographer Jason Turner initially mistook it for aircraft wreckage, common in these parts. But when analysts at the CIA zoomed in, their faces turned pale. A submarine's periscope was clearly visible. "Impossible," whispered Mark Stevens, head of analysis and a former submariner. "The nearest ocean is 400 kilometers away." Within an hour, the U.S. Naval Archives delivered a chilling reply. The periscope design matched the Permit-class submarines operational in the 1960s. 72 hours later, an international expedition arrived, led by Dr. David Mitchell, a naval archaeologist whose father mysteriously died aboard a sub in 1969. The team included Jack Hansen, an ex-Navy nuclear engineer who had worked on the K-19 cleanup, Carla Ramos, a Chilean biologist specializing in Andean wildlife, Hiroshi Tanaka, a Japanese radiation specialist who had responded to Fukushima, and 12 other specialists. From the beginning, strange phenomena surrounded the site. Electronics failed within 5 kilometers. Compasses spun wildly as if caught in a magnetic storm. GPS displayed coordinates in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Radiation levels spiked unpredictably. Local guide Juan Castillo refused to approach closer than 1 kilometer. "This is a cursed place," he said. "My grandfather told me an iron whale fell from the sky here one night." The most unusual behavior came from the local llamas. Normally skittish around humans, dozens gathered around the excavation site, forming a near-perfect circle about 100 meters from the periscope. They showed no fear, only intense observation, their heads turning in unison as if controlled by a single mind. "In 20 years working in the Andes, I've never seen anything like this," Ramos wrote in her notebook. "They act as if they're guarding this place, or waiting for something. Strangest of all, there are no young, only adults over 5 years old." After a week of grueling excavation in 45 degrees Celsius heat, the team uncovered the upper hull. The metal bore strange spiral corrosion patterns, as if exposed to an unknown form of energy. The markings were clear: USS Triton, SSN 601. Mitchell held his breath. This Permit-class nuclear submarine had been missing since March 15, 1968. Officially, it had sunk in the Atlantic during a secret mission to intercept a Soviet sub. No wreckage or the bodies of its 112 crew members had ever been found. Entering through the torpedo room was like stepping through time. The first compartment greeted them with eerie silence and a temperature of around 15 degrees Celsius. Impossibly cool for a metal box left in the desert sun for decades. Everything remained perfectly preserved, as if the crew had just left. Navigation tables held Atlantic charts with plotted courses. Officer quarters had cups of dried coffee on desks. The captain's cabin displayed a calendar frozen on March 15, 1968. Nearby lay an open copy of Moby Dick with a photo of a woman and young boy tucked inside. The answers lay in Captain Robert Anderson's logbook, found in the bridge safe alongside classified documents labeled Top Secret/Operation Sandstar. The first entries described a routine mission, recovering a Soviet space capsule carrying experimental equipment that had crashed in international waters. On board was a special science advisor from the NSA, Dr. William Hoffman, a theoretical physicist involved in the Philadelphia experiment project. Then, on March 14, everything changed. 2340, object detected at 300 meters. Water temperature abnormally high, up 18 degrees instead of the usual 4. Sonar shows strange luminescence around it. Dr. Hoffman is excited, says it matches the Compass 7 prototype. When the manipulator touched the hull, a device inside activated. A blinding blue flash lit the water. All bridge systems failed immediately. The next entry stunned researchers. March 15, 7:15. Merciful God. We're on the surface, but it's desert. Nothing but sand and mountains as far as the eye can see. Outside temp, 42 degrees Celsius. Depth gauge shows -800 meters, as if we're floating in midair. GPS places us in South America when it works. Crew near panic. Seaman Jenkins claims he saw fish swimming past his porthole. Dr. Hoffman's inserted report explained, Compass 7 wasn't a navigation device, it was a spacetime anomaly generator. Its activation created a discontinuity that displaced our mass through curved space. Destination coordinates appear random. We've been thrown into the worst possible place on Earth. The subsequent logs chronicled a desperate fight for survival. Without seawater, the S-5W nuclear reactor's cooling system failed catastrophically. Temperatures soared toward meltdown levels. On March 17, Chief Engineer Thompson and his team began rigging an emergency cooling system using freshwater reserves, a stopgap measure that would last 5 days at most. Then the llamas intervened. At dawn on March 18, sentries reported 30 camelid creatures approaching in formation. The largest female began scraping at sand 200 meters from the sub, revealing damp earth beneath. Crews dug frantically, discovering an underground aquifer. Over the following weeks, the llamas brought white clay to seal pipe joints, led sailors to sheltering caves during sandstorms, and even provided medicinal plants to treat radiation sickness. April 12, day 29. Reactor stabilized but fuel won't last. Made the call, initiating emergency shutdown. O'Brien joked we'll be the world's first sailing submarine. Laughter keeps men alive. By June only 37 crew remained. The final log entry read, strength failing. Third day without water. At dawn, the llamas gathered beside the hull in a semicircle. Their queen pressed her muzzle into my hand. In her brown eyes I saw farewell, and a promise. Hoffman's last words, they know. This wasn't an accident. We were meant to be here. I leave this log hoping someone finds us. If you meet the llamas, bow to them. They're more than animals. They're the guardians. Captain Robert Anderson, USN. Modern examinations revealed more mysteries. The Soviet Compass 7 device contained equations predicting 1990 string theory. Subwalls bore advanced nuclear diagrams number 1960 sailor could know. Like someone was dictating them, one mechanic's note said. Llama DNA contained uncrackable code-like sequences. Declassified files exposed Project Keystone, a secret US-USSR effort to manipulate spacetime hidden behind Cold War tensions. Today the Triton rests as a memorial. Every March 15th, llamas return, standing silent for exactly 47 minutes, the time they gave the crew each day. The lead llama, bearing a spiral mark like ancient cave paintings, touches the monument before leading the herd away. We came for a submarine, Mitchell wrote. We found a bridge between worlds, built not with steel but with compassion. When the jailer entered the cell, the flickering neon lights cast eerie shadows. This is it, Reed. The time has come. His voice sounded almost mechanical. Reed Harrison slowly raised his head. Heavy shackles bound his wrists, his face carved with 5 years of death rose deep wrinkles. But his eyes showed no fear, only unshakable determination. I have one last wish, he said softly. I want to see my dog Storm. The warden hesitated. Protocol was protocol. Prisoners typically requested a special meal or to meet family, but a dog? I'll ask, he murmured before leaving Reed alone with his thoughts. Reed closed his eyes. Storm's image surfaced in his mind, his loyal German shepherd, the only friend who remained after his arrest. He remembered that night rescuing the puppy from the shelter, how the dog had pulled him through his darkest hours. Just once more, he whispered. I just want to see him again. 15 miles away in a countryside cottage, the phone rang. Tess Vale, a young veterinarian with tired eyes and wild red hair, grabbed the receiver. Yes. Miss Vale? Warden Coleman here. It's about Reed Harrison's final wish regarding the dog you care for. Tess froze. Her heart began pounding violently. Storm? He wants to see Storm? Yes. He wants to see him first. Coleman cleared his throat. Before the end, Tess pressed her lips together. She believed in Reed's innocence. Over years of letters, she'd read his unwavering faith that truth would prevail. But time had run out. I'll bring him. Give me an hour. But when she called, no dog came. The front door was locked, yet the balcony window stood slightly open. A chewed leash lay on the floor. Tess panicked. Storm was gone. With trembling hands, she dialed a long-unused number. Lane? I need help. It's about Reed. And Storm. Pause. Then a low voice responded, I'm on my way. Time slipped away. Tess searched the house, checking closets and under furniture. Storm had vanished. She rushed to the porch, peering into the garden's darkness. Distant barking carried on the night wind. Was it Storm? As she moved toward her car, a black Dodge Charger screeched to a halt outside. A tall, scar-faced man emerged. Those scars held stories he never shared. What happened? He asked, his gaze sharp as a predator's. Storm's gone, Tess exhaled. The balcony window was open, leash broken. Someone took him Lane. And Reed's out of time. Completely out. Lane cursed softly, pulling out his phone. Vince, we've got a problem. A dog's been taken. Not just any dog, Reed's dog. Find out who's behind this. As Lane spoke, Tess recalled last night. A black sedan had circled her house repeatedly. I saw that car yesterday, she muttered. Drove past 2-3 times. Thought I imagined it, but now. Lane nodded. Then we've got a starting point. Get in. Meanwhile, in the industrial district, Storm strained against his collar's chain. The dog growled low, ears twitching at every sound. The warehouse stood pitch black, lit only by a flickering overhead bulb. A gray-suited man leaned against a crate, smiling smugly as he exhaled cigarette smoke. Fine dog, he remarked. Pity he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. A gaunt man with icy eyes emerged from shadows. Orders are containment only. No harm yet. The suit shrugged. That depends on our friend Reed's next move. Storm snarled fiercely, struggling to break free. Somehow he knew Reed needed him. He'd fight to the end to return. Back in prison, Reed sat on his bunk watching narrow light through barred windows. In hours, everything would end. The cell door clanged open. The warden entered, followed by the sheriff. We've got a problem, the sheriff said gravely. The dog's missing. Stolen right before transport. Reed's breath caught. What? Who? Unknown. But we're working on it. Reed's hands clenched into fists. His final wish, the one thing sustaining him for 5 years, had been stolen. But by whom? And why? Lane's Charger tore through empty streets as he called for backup. We've got to lead harbor warehouses. Need reinforcements. Tess knew their time was slipping away. If they didn't find Storm, Reed would die without seeing him again. The harbor lay shrouded in pre-dawn gloom, thick fog coiling between abandoned warehouses. Seawater lapped quietly against docks as distant gulls cried. Lane parked the Charger in a dark alley. The only thing that had kept him going for 5 years was taken away. But who? Why? Asterisk asterisk. Lane's charger sped through the empty streets as he dialed another number. Asterisk, we're ahead. The warehouse is at the port. We need backup. Asterisk, Tess turned to him. She knew well that time was against them. If they didn't find Storm, Reed would die without seeing him again. The port was shrouded in the twilight before dawn, thick fog creeping between abandoned warehouses. The sea lapped quietly against the dock walls, seagulls screeching in the distance. Lane parked the charger in a dark alley, pulling a pistol from beneath the seat. Asterisk, stay in the car. Asterisk. Tessa's eyes flashed. Asterisk, no way. That's my dog. Asterisk. Lane studied her for a moment, then sighed. Asterisk, then stay close. If things go south, run. Asterisk. They crept toward the warehouse. Lane pressed against the wall, peering through grimy glass. Shadows moved inside. Asterisk asterisk, 2 men asterisk asterisk. One in a suit, the other hooded. And in the middle, Storm, chained but ready to fight. This guy has no idea who he's messing with, Lane muttered. Tess clenched her fists. Asterisk, then let's show him. Asterisk. Meanwhile, Reed paced his cell. He didn't know what was happening outside, but one thing was clear. Someone desperately didn't want him to see Storm. Asterisk, was this just a sadistic game? Or something more? Asterisk. The warden stood at the door. Asterisk, we're working on intel. But I can't promise anything. Asterisk. Reed met his eyes, voice hoarse. Asterisk, please. I'm running out of time. Asterisk. The warden sighed. Asterisk, we're doing everything we can. Asterisk. But Reed knew it wasn't enough. Lane crouched behind pallets, counting silently. 2 guards. Maybe more in the shadows. Asterisk asterisk. Tess picked up a rusted pipe. Asterisk, we don't have time to waste. Asterisk. Lane smirked. Asterisk, I like your style. Asterisk. With a smooth motion, he flicked a pebble at the metal wall. The clang echoed through the room. Asterisk, what was that? Asterisk. Asterisk, dunno. Check it. Asterisk. The hooded man stepped out, gun drawn. Lane struck from behind, asterisk asterisk, disarming him, slamming him into the wall. Asterisk asterisk, the man crumpled, unconscious. Not bad, Tess whispered, impressed. Inside, Storm barked fiercely. He'd heard them. But the suited man reacted faster. He pressed his gun to the dog's head. Asterisk, one more step and the dog dies. Asterisk. Tess froze. Lane just chuckled. Asterisk, you have no idea who you're dealing with. Asterisk. A subtle hand signal. Before the man could react, Storm lunged, chains snapping, teeth bared. Back at the prison, Reed's heart pounded. The warden returned, face grim. Asterisk, FBI agents found your dog. Orders from above. We're assisting. Asterisk. Reed leaned back, eyes closed. Hope or trap? But one thing was certain. If Storm was alive, there was still a chance. Lane zip-tied the prisoner, shoving him into the charger. Tess jumped in, Storm panting in the back. A bullet whizzed past. Asterisk, get down. Asterisk, Lane roared. Tires screeched as the charger swerved into an alley, mirrors nearly scraping walls behind them. 2 SUVs crashed, buying time. Tess exhaled, turning to Storm. Asterisk asterisk, alert, loyal, unharmed. Asterisk asterisk. The suited man groaned from the back seat. Let me go. Lane cocked his gun. Asterisk, Reed's got questions for you first. Asterisk. The clock ticked. Would they make it in time? The jailer's boots echoed on the cold concrete as he entered the cell, the flickering neon lights casting jagged shadows across Reed Harrison's face. "This is it, Reed. Time's up." His voice carried the hollow tone of a man who delivered this speech too many times before. Reed slowly lifted his head, the weight of 5 years on death row etched into the deep wrinkles around his eyes. The shackles around his wrists clanked as he moved. "I have one last request," Reed said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want to see Storm." The warden hesitated, his fingers twitching against the clipboard. Prisoners usually asked for a final meal or to see family, not a dog. "I'll see what I can do," he muttered before retreating, leaving Reed alone with the ghosts of his memories. 15 miles away, the phone shattered the silence of Tess Vale's small veterinary clinic. The red-haired vet nearly knocked over a tray of instruments as she grabbed the receiver. "Hello? Miss Vale? Warden Coleman here. It's about Reed Harrison's final request regarding the dog in your care." Tessa's breath caught in her throat. "Storm? He wants to see Storm?" "Yes. Before." The warden cleared his throat. "Before the procedure tonight." Tessa's knuckles turned white around the phone. She'd received dozens of letters from Reed over the years, each one insisting on his innocence. She believed him. But the clock had run out. "I'll bring him. Give me an hour." But when she called for Storm, the only response was the creak of an open window. A chewed leash lay abandoned on the floor. Tessa's hands trembled as she dialed a number she hadn't called in years. "Lane? I need your help. It's about Reed. And Storm." Pause. Then a voice like gravel, "I'm on my way." The Port District lay shrouded in pre-dawn fog when Lane's Charger screeched to a halt outside Warehouse 47. Lane produced a pistol from beneath the driver's seat with practiced ease. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Tessa's eyes flashed. "That's my dog in there." Inside, Storm strained against his chains, his growl reverberating through the empty space. A man in a tailored gray suit exhaled cigarette smoke with a satisfied smirk. "Persistent mutt, isn't he?" The dog's ears pricked up seconds before the explosion. Lane came through the door like a storm front, Tess right behind him with a rusted pipe in hand. The suited man barely had time to draw his weapon before Storm launched himself forward, the chain snapping taut. "Down?" Lane barked as a bullet whizzed past Tessa's head. At the prison, Reed paced his cell like a caged animal. The warden returned with an unreadable expression. "Change of plans," he said, producing a key. "We're going for a ride." The van doors opened to reveal Tess, Lane, and Storm hit Reed like a freight train, nearly knocking the breath from his lungs. Reed sank to his knees, his fingers buried in the thick fur of the German shepherd who'd waited 5 years for this moment. Lane tossed a flash drive in the air and caught it. "Turns out Storm was carrying more than just loyalty," he said, nodding to the terrified man in handcuffs beside him. "Our friend here was very eager to explain how this little drive connects you to some powerful people who wanted you gone." Reed's hands shook as he stared at the tiny device that held the truth. The sun was just beginning to rise as the news vans arrived, their cameras capturing the moment the state's most notorious prisoner walked free. Storm pressed against Reed's leg as they faced the reporters, his warm weight the only anchor Reed needed. Somewhere in the crowd, Lane melted into the shadows, his work done. "For now." Tess squeezed Reed's shoulder. "What now?" Reed looked down at Storm, then at the horizon stretching endlessly before them. "Now," he said, "we find out who really set me up." The dog's low growl echoed his sentiment perfectly.